we are going to be going over how to graph linear inequalities. This should be at the bottom of your first page under the Do Now. So first off, what does the word inequality or inequalities mean? It's pretty much these four symbols. Go ahead and write these down on your notes. So these four symbols you should recognize as being the less than sign, the greater than sign, the less than or equal to sign, and the greater than or equal to sign. So these four symbols are called the inequalities, and our equal sign is called the equality. So let's get into our notes now. So first one, what is the difference between these three that we have here? They all look very much the same, but they have one tiny difference, which is the symbol that they each carry. So the first one has an equal sign, the next one has a greater than or equal to sign, and the last one just has a less than sign. So that is the difference between all three. So let's go ahead and graph the first one, which is the one we do know how to graph, which is just your basic equation, which is going to be a line or a linear function. So we start at 2, negative. On the y-axis, it's our y-intercept. So go ahead and put that point. And my slope is 4/3, which means we're going to rise 4 and run 3, which lands a point right there. So again, I rise 4 and run 3. So again, that's where this movement comes. It puts us right back at that point. Then we're going to repeat that. We're going to rise 4 more and run 3, which take us to the top corner of the grid. Then we'll work backwards to get one more point, down 4 and left or backwards 3. Then we just connect our line. Again, this is just a quick review of what we've already been doing for a while, just graphing a basic line. So now let's go ahead and look at the next one. It's going to be pretty much the same idea. We're going to go ahead and put the same points, because what's going to happen when we change equals to less than, greater than, less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to? It pretty much just offers us to shade one side of the plane. So this line that we put on the first equation, it divides our coordinate plane into 2 regions. So we are going to be shading one side of that plane or that coordinate plane. So we start off the same way. We'll put that same line. So go ahead and put the same line we just did earlier. And the question is, which side am I going to fill in? Because the greater than or equal to sign tells us there is more than just the one answers on the actual line. It also includes anything that's greater than that equation. So because I do have the greater than symbol here, this tells me that I am going to shade everything above the line. So greater than means to shade up. So that's what we'll be doing. So just go ahead and do a quick shading. If you have a highlighter, go ahead and use it. Or just do a quick coloring. It doesn't have to be super dark or solid. Just do a quick shading. And that's what the inequalities do. They either shade the upper half of the plane or the lower half of the plane. And that's basically it when it comes to these symbols. Now, let's look at the next one. This one has a less than symbol, so we will have the same line again. The only thing is this time, because it's a less than sign, we're going to be shading below. But notice that this one is just strictly a less than, and it does not have the equal to sign. So what does that tell me? So going back to the original one, the equal sign here is what includes the line as part of my answer. That's why on the second one, I also have this line here. The third one does not have the equal to sign on it. The first one's just an equals, second one has an equal to sign, last one does not have the equal to sign. Therefore, when I draw my line, I am not going to make it a continuous line. It's going to be a broken line, or if you prefer to think of it as a discrete line, that works too. So I'm going to go ahead and put those same points again. And I'm just going to draw a broken line in between. So we get broken lines when we don't have the equal to on the inequality. So it's the same idea. The only difference is this line is going to be broken because I don't have the equal sign, and the equal sign is the actual line. Now I'm just going to go ahead and shade below because I do have the less than. So it's everything less than my line. So everything below gets shaded. And that's pretty much the difference when we have these inequalities. We're shading, and we can possibly have a broken line. So let's go ahead and summarize this. Go on to the next page on your handout. So when we graph linear inequalities, first thing we do is just graph the points, just like we've done before. If you need to solve for y if it's in standard form. Second step is we draw a solid or broken line. So again, if you have the equal sign, you draw the solid line. If you don't have the little equals on the inequality, you draw a broken line. So again, these two symbols, we use solid with the equal sign. These two symbols, we use a broken line because it does not include the line, no equal sign. So we just draw a dotted line or a broken line. Third step is we decide, do we shade above or do we shade below? The less than signs, we shade below. The greater than signs, we shade above. So let's go ahead and do some examples, and it's just kind of broken up for us to make sure we're asking ourselves the questions. Is it solid? Is it broken? Is it shaded up or down? So we're going to start with this first one. We know it's going to be a broken line because there is no equals on my greater than symbol. Then we're going to shade up because it's a greater than symbol. So greater than means above, so up. So let's go ahead and graph the points. That's the first thing we should do is graph all the points. We are going to start at 3 on the y-axis, and then we're going to go down to and over 1. So go ahead and start graphing those points. So here we start at 3. We're going to go down 2 and over 1, and then we repeat that down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, and then we work backwards up to back 1 and connect our line. Remembering our line has to be a broken line because we don't have the equals on the inequality. And then we decide to shade above the line. If you're having trouble deciding which side is above, just put your pencil on top of the line and slide it up and see which side it covers. So one more time, if you're not sure which side of the two to shade in, put your pencil on top of the line you just drew and slide your pencil upwards, and it's going to hit the region that you should shade, which in this case is right there. Let's go ahead and move on to the next example. We have y less than or equal to 5/2 x minus 3. So this is going to be a solid line because we have the equals on the inequality. It's a less than or equal to, so that means we're going to be shading down. So let's go ahead and start graphing our line like we always do. Start at -3 on the y-axis. My slope is 5/2, which is positive, which means I'm going to be increasing on my line. So I'm going to go up 5, forward or right 2. I can do another point going forward, and I can do another point going backwards. It won't fit on the grid, or you can go off the grid if you prefer. But I'm just going to draw my solid line because I have the equals on it. Now I'm going to shade on the downward direction. One more time, just put your pencil on top of the line and slide it going down and see which side it hits. So when you do that, you should see that it's going to be shaded on the bottom section, which is right there. Let's move on to our next example. X is less than -2. So remember, this is not in slope-intercept form. This has a x on there. So that means this is going to be a vertical line. It cannot hit the y-axis because it's not in y equals form. So there's no y-intercept, and the slope is undefined. So we're going to have a vertical line at -2 on the x-axis. So we're just going to draw a line right there. So let's go ahead and draw it. Now, before we start drawing and connecting this line and shading, let's ask ourselves, solid or broken? There is no equal sign, so it's going to be a broken line. It's a less than symbol, so we're going to be shading specifically to one side. So I'm going to get to that part right now because there is no up and down. So let's go ahead and put our point. So we put our point at -2. We draw our broken line going up and down, which is vertical. Now, here we cannot shade up or down because there is no up and down since it's a vertical line. So in this case, when we do have vertical lines, we shade to the left or to the right. Since it's a less than sign, where is the smaller side, the left side or the right side? So if you say to the left, you are correct. We shade to the left. So less than is to the left because the negative numbers go towards the left. So we shade this region of the plane. And let's go into our last example. This one happens to be in standard form, so before I can start graphing, I need to convert this to slope-intercept form, or y equals mx plus b, or y less than or equal to mx plus b. So I'm going to start by moving my x to the other side, like I always do. Those cancel out. I do the opposite sign before they can cancel. Bring down my -5y. Make sure we're bringing down that negative, the less than or equal to symbol, the 5 and the -3x. So I brought them all down. To get the y by itself, I divide by that -5 across all numbers on both sides. And the -5s cancel. 3/5 simplifies to +3/5 because they're both negative. And the 5/5 gives me a 1, but positive divided by a negative is a negative. Now, one thing I do want you guys to notice is that when I divided by a negative number, my inequality changed. So just like we did on the do now, when you divide by a negative, this inequality here gets flipped over. You may want to write a note for yourself that it flips because I divided by a negative. So you only flip it when you divide by a negative, as a reminder. So let's go ahead and move on. Let's go ahead and decide. Since we have a greater than or equal to symbol, we're going to have a solid line. Because it's a greater than symbol, we are going to shade up or above. Let's go ahead and graph our points, starting at -1 on the y-axis. We're going to go up 3 over 5. And we're going to go backwards, down 3, back 5. And we're going to connect our solid line. And we're going to shade above. Just put your pencil on the line and slide it up, and you'll see it shading in this region right here. So now it's your turn to just go ahead and finish the rest of your packet. You have a total of 10 practice problems and 2 error analysis problems. So go ahead and finish it up, and good luck.